Welcome back to the St. Paul Center for Biblical Theology. I'm Beckett, and today is Thursday of the second week of Advent. Normally in the readings on the ordinary day in Advent, we would be looking at the Gospel of Matthew and specifically talking about John the Baptist and how Christ discusses how he is Elijah who is to come. But today is also the memorial of Our Lady of Loreto. And I'd like to take a look at those readings for today because personally they're my favorite mystery to meditate on in praying the Rosary. That is the Annunciation. Beautiful mystery it is too, because it's a mystery of submission totally to God's will in Mary's fiat, that it be done to me according to thy word. As always, I'd like to take a look at what the Church Fathers say about these readings today. So I encourage you to go to the memorial for today, Our Lady of Loreto, and follow along in today's Gospel. But you can also see it in Luke chapter 1, verses 26 through 38. Let's talk about first what St. Ambrose says about Mary herself, that she prefigures the Church. He who had undertaken to prove the incorrupt mystery of the Incarnation thought it fruitless to pursue evidence of Mary's virginity, lest he be seen as a defender of the Virgin rather than an advocate of the mystery. Surely, when he taught that Joseph was righteous, he adequately declared that he could not violate the temple of the Holy Spirit, the mother of the Lord, the womb of the mystery. We have learned the lineage of the truth. We have learned its counsel. Let us learn its mystery. Fittingly, is she espoused, but virgin, because she prefigures the Church which is undefiled, yet wed. A virgin conceived us of the Spirit. A virgin brings us forth without travail. And thus, perhaps Mary, wed to one, was filled by another, because also the separate churches are indeed filled by the Spirit and by grace, and yet are joined to the appearance of a temporal priest. When Ambrose is saying the separate churches, he's meaning the individual churches in their own respective dioceses or in their own towns. He's not talking about how we understand separate churches today as Protestant and Catholic and all that. He's talking about the separate churches of Christendom at that time, which was not divided. And when he says, joined to the appearance of a temporal priest, that priest is capitalized, and he's meaning to the high priest of heaven. That is in other words, what St. Ambrose is doing is he's comparing Mary's relationship with Joseph to the Church's relationship with Jesus. Mary's womb was filled with Jesus while being wed to Joseph, who was not the blood relation of Jesus, who was not the father of Jesus, I should say, in natural conception, because Jesus was conceived with the Holy Spirit. Similarly, the Church is wed to Christ, and that marital relationship will be fully revealed at the apocalypse. So when we read today's gospel passage about Mary's betrothal to Joseph, yet conceiving Christ in her womb through the Holy Spirit, we can also understand that in terms of our church today not being fully who she is, but on a journey toward marriage with Christ. Advent is a time of Christ's second coming. Advent is a time of the church being more fully revealed and coming to that full realization on her wedding day in heaven. St. Ambrose goes on to say that Mary seems, when the angel says to her that she will conceive of the Holy Spirit, and she says, how can this be? St. Ambrose says, Mary seems to disbelieve unless you pay close attention, for it is not right that she who was chosen to bear the only begotten Son of God should seem to have been without faith. How could this be? She questions. although the prerogative of the mother, on whom a greater prerogative is straightway to be conferred, is intact. How could it be that Zechariah, who did not believe, was condemned to silence? But Mary, if she had not believed, would be exalted by the infusion of the Holy Spirit. What St. Ambrose is talking about is the consequence of two things that happen in the first chapter of Luke's Gospel. Later on in Luke's Gospel, or earlier on in Luke's Gospel, the angel Gabriel appeared to Zechariah and said, "Your wife Elizabeth will bear a son." And Zechariah says, "How can this be?" And the angel says, "Well, you're going to be deaf and mute because of that." Later on, Zechariah's hearing and speech returned when his name was revealed as John. But Mary had a different consequence. St. Ambrose is pointing out that she did not suffer any sort of handicap. On the contrary, the Holy Spirit conceived in her womb Jesus incarnate. So why the difference? St. Ambrose goes on to say, Mary must both believe and so not heedlessly usurp. She must believe the angel and not usurp divine things. Is it easy to know the mystery which has been hidden from eternity in God, which the higher powers could not know either? She did not deny the faith. She did not refuse the duty. She conformed her will. She promised obedience. When she truly said, "How can this be?" she did not doubt concerning the outcome, but sought the nature of this same outcome. In other words, what St. Ambrose is talking about is that Zechariah, when he said, "How can this be?" what he was saying is, what other proof can you give me that my wife Elizabeth is going to bear a child? In other words, he was seeking a greater faith. Mary was not seeking greater faith. What she was seeking was a better understanding of God's plan. When she said, "How can this be?" what she was asking is, would you tell me how God is planning to do this? And the angel complied. He said, "The Holy Spirit will overshadow you. And in your womb will be conceived Christ." We're talking here about doubt and faith. Zechariah's doubt is juxtaposed to Mary's faith. Mary said, "Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. May it be done to me according to thy word." Could she fully understand these poetic words? You will be overshadowed. It's heightened language. How could the angel fully say, well, the DNA in your womb will multiply and the Holy Spirit will make sure that all these scientific boxes will be checked so that a child can be supernaturally birthed in your womb? He said nothing like that. He said, you will be overshadowed. Now, granted, that has other connections to other Old Testament passages, but at the same time, when we look at it in terms of a narrative criticism, we see that this word overshadowed is poetic. It's not fully revealing all of God's plan, but it's more fully beautifying the revelation of God's plan in our life. The Holy Spirit overshadowed Mary. And what was her response? What does overshadowed mean? What is that going to mean? She didn't say that at all. What she said was, "Let it be done to me according to thy word." I mean, let's face it, if the Holy Spirit came to you and said, "You will be overshadowed by the Holy Spirit," what on earth does that mean? I will be overshadowed? I won't get rained on? Or I will be protected from the burning heat of day? What does that mean? How we can bring this more fully into our lives, how we can more fully accept this or more fully interpret this for our daily lives, is that God doesn't fully reveal himself or his plan to us. But we are called to imitate Mary even with the limited revelation that God gives to us. Let's face it, most of the time, we don't understand what's going on in God's head. Sometimes I turn to God, I don't understand you. I mean, I do all these things, I make all these sacrifices, I try to live a holy life, and then you give somebody all these wonderful gifts. You give somebody all the things that I've been asking for you in prayer, and it doesn't seem like you listen to me. Don't worry, I'm going to overshadow you. What does that mean? We're not called in our daily lives to fully understand God, but we are called to fully trust Him. And that takes a greater step of faith. One of my favorite quotes from Mother Angelica is her quote on faith. Faith is 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot in the air, and that queasy feeling in your stomach. I have a feeling that's what Mary was feeling at that time. A greater step of faith. 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot in the air, and that queasy feeling in her stomach. 9 months later, that feeling became an infant boy in a manger. In other words, her leap of faith, her step of faith, her fiat, let it be done to me according to thy word, is exactly how we ought to live every day of our lives, though it is difficult, though it is challenging. And when we do that, we more fully understand ourselves in the church as the bride of Christ, right? Mary's statement of faith has not only that she's going to conceive, but also that she's also betrothed to Joseph. What a great step of faith that is, that Joseph would also understand what's going on. And he did. He didn't understand fully, but he obeyed. Dr. Hahn recently talked about the letters in Joseph's name. He's just, he's obedient, he's silent, he's enduring, he's pious, and he's holy. I love that word, obedient and silent. Joseph, obedient and silence. He was immediately obedient, though he had a little bit of fear. Though we each have fear in our lives, all of us are called to take that step of faith, to say, let it be done to me according to thy word. Lord, you did not give me the gifts that I've been asking for. You are not answering my prayer. Let it be done to me according to thy word. Let us ask our Blessed Mother in our daily lives to help us. Because that's what St. Ambrose is talking about right here. We mustn't be like Zechariah, who said, give me further proof that, what you say is going to happen. No, we're called to be like our Blessed Mother, to say, I don't fully understand, but I fully trust. Let it be done to me according to your word. God bless you all during this Advent season. I pray that the Lord will be with you. Continue to stay with us on the St. Paul Center for Biblical Theology. Like this video, share this video and all of our videos, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Looking forward to seeing you next time. God bless you.